Barely made it just in time. How did my hair change so fast? I have no idea. That's the magic of television, baby. Welcome to another edition of Cat Calls. I am Kat Vine, your host. I am a music and culture journalist, and this is my show that I do on Thursdays when I feel like it here at my YouTube channel. Why would I even say that? Well, maybe you're not watching this live. Maybe you're listening to this later on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, which is where Cat Calls lives. I'm still in the process of uploading all of the old episodes. Speaking of old episodes, you can watch all of them here on YouTube or listen to them on streaming services, wherever you like to do that. And I'm so glad that you have joined me here in the chat with Tort and Strike. I ran the hair color off. Yes, that is what I did. We're not here to just listen to me ramble like an insane person. No, we are here to have a conversation with a wonderful guest. And so I want you all to give a big raucous round of applause for Gilligan Moss. Yeah! Just yet, but they will be here very soon. This is my first time speaking with the fellas of Gilligan Moss, but they've known each other almost their whole lives. Ben and Evan grew up in Chicago, but now live in New York City. Their friendly chemistry and varied backgrounds and tastes bring a certain sense of joy to their sound that I find really fun. They've always been interested in mixing a wide array of genres into their electronic-leaning style, and their sophomore LP, Speaking Across Time, as I'm trying to put words together, Speaking Across Time, which was released just a few weeks ago, manages to just absolutely nail that concept, mixing in funk and pop and country and hip hop and soul and so much more into a delightful package that actually sounds very cohesive for having all those big ideas packed inside of it. They just finished a tour of North America, and now they're coming to Cat Calls. It's too late to back out now. Before they pick up the phone though, I'm gonna play for you their song, You've Made It! Because I've made it and you've made it here. Isn't that a beautiful way to start a nice evening of whatever this is? No, I really like the song You've Made It. I think it perfectly proves my points about what a summertime sweet this album really is. Although it's beautiful for any season, really. Please enjoy this, and when we come back, I will have Ben and Evan of Gilligan Moss on the line. And remember, this is your show as much as it is my show. The whole idea is that you're part of the conversation. So if you have anything you want to ask the Gilligan Moss guys, or you just want to chime in, please feel free to. I'm here to ask your questions as well as my questions. You know, we're all just in this together. And you've made it!
Let me relate to you a most intense experience I lived. When I died for the first time, I felt bad about not having been to the deepest areas of awareness.
right.
And we're live, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that. Their faces are in the right places. Shout out technology.
Shout out.
So we've got to my left Ben, and to my right we've got Evan, and that makes no sense to them, but it makes sense to you watching at home. Thank you so much for joining. And I noticed, Ben, that you're wearing a Chicago shirt, repping the hometown.
A little throwback for the origin story.
Yeah. And you were complimenting Evan on his shirt. What's up with your shirt, Evan?
This is a Dead & Co. I went to the final show until it turned into not the final show with the Sphere gigs. But I'm a late in life Deadhead. It's a new phase I've entered in the past year.
Okay, so. Amazing. Who got you? Let's follow this thread very briefly. Who got you into Dead & Co? What happened? Who gave you mushrooms? Just kidding.
My wife's her dad, but her family, they're big Allman Brothers, Dead, all that kind of classic rock jam band type stuff. So I've been kind of we've always, Ben and I have, not so much the Dead, but have always kind of been fascinated with that era and tried to put it in our music. So
it's the dopest culture with the music that I respect the least possible. It's I love everything about it. I love all the window dressing. I love so much about it except the fundamental part of it.
The actual style of sound that it's all built around. I totally get that. I was reading this really fascinating story about Fish, which is not the Dead, right? But very similar, the jam band that the big fans follow around for their entire lives, make a living selling crystals in the parking lot kind of vibe. And
probably make better money than a musician, to be honest.
maybe the band is getting a cut of the crystal sales. Maybe that's what keeps the whole thing afloat. But it is fascinating. I think it's very, they say until you experience it yourself, you just can't know. Do you find that is true now that you've seen the Dead, albeit in the fanciest venue of all time?
The real, I guess not the real Dead, but Dead & Co. was awesome. I was fully converted. I went to this festival, I don't think it exists anymore, called the Peach Fest in Scranton, Pennsylvania, which is another jam band fest. And I saw most of that, I saw this cover band, Joe Russo's Almost Dead, which is a Grateful Dead cover band, which is insane that the cover bands can headline these festivals.
Crazy.
That sucked ass. That was terrible. That was each song was 30 minutes long. It was just totally I didn't know what the hell was going on, but the actual Dead & Co. was pretty good. They
nice.
Average song was 7 minutes, which I can.
I feel you need to upgrade your experience by becoming a Whippets balloon guy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to
understand the music until you're parked next to a giant can of nitrous.
Until you hear every 5 seconds. Oh man, my head hurts just making that sound. I don't know.
Yeah, I miss too.
That's awesome. And I must ask you, what was it like being in the Sphere actually? Because of course I've seen the videos on the internet, but I just
I was at City, because I was at the tour before that was
okay.
Final tour, and then the Sphere happened. Which
I want to go to the Sphere. I fuck with the Sphere. I feel the Sphere gets too much hate, and it's it looks fucking dope.
Yeah, it looks very sick.
To a concert, an IMAX concert with the coolest possible. Us, we just did this tour and we had our name vaguely wiggly behind us, and that felt like a huge upgrade. And I was the Sphere is a million times bigger than that and way cooler.
I think the only thing that it's the tickets are thousands of dollars, right? Because they have to pay for this thing that they built, which is
it's still losing a ton of money.
Yeah, so
It looks sick.
But you guys, it's fine. This is how we fix it. Y'all just get booked to play the Sphere, and then we can all experience it. You can experience it and get paid.
I would love playing at the Sphere. That'd be so cool.
But I'm glad you mentioned your tour, because I do want to ask you, maybe the Dead & Co. experience helped inspire this. I loved the after tour video that you just put up. I'm sure you put it up on socials as well, but I saw it on your YouTube. And there was very much a spiritual element. It seemed like you were lighting incense with your crowd before, maybe before the show, after. Please tell me about the incense and what was going on there.
We started a couple tours ago. We knew that we had like a opening song. It's like the first song from our first record. It's called GM from GM. And it's this very kind of like bright, bubbly, like kind of acid trip breakfast cereal kind of thing. And I think it was Evan's idea as like an intro, kind of as a joke, to do this like meditation to get everybody like centered before the show. And we were like, let's do this kind of new agey thing. And I think we were sort of like, it was pretty in jest. But then we started doing it, and like people would come up to us after the shows and be like, brother, thank you so much for centering me before the music concert. It was so blissful to like stand in silence with, and I was like, we're like, okay, this is hilarious. And I feel like over time I have really grown to like love that element of our show. Like it is how we start every show, and I actually, like, it is extremely helpful to just like close my eyes and breathe it.
On this tour, we were backstage when it starts. So like Ben and I would like actually close our eyes and like do our little thing during it and then come out to it. So it became like a real meditation.
And we upgraded our new age attitude this time with a mid-set meditation as well.
Oh.
That's where the incense comes in.
Okay.
So like in 3 tours, the whole show is just gonna be like lay down and and stuff.
You'll have your singing bowls, and you'll roll out mats and little seated cushions for everybody. And
Yeah.
they'll be like, I thought.
Namaste. It's kind of fun. I don't know. It's like it is a really. It's cool to like, you know. I feel like so many electronic concerts are punctuated by just like and it's that over and over and over, and it's like really nice for. I feel a little selfish doing it because I'm just like, I feel like this is for me. I hope you all enjoy it, but this is like really for us. So
I mean,
it's been a very fun component of the show. For
yeah,
sure.
but also it's funny that you would say that, because I feel like just the act of being an artist is kind of like, well, this is for me. I hope you enjoy it, because really it's for me.
Yeah.
Like, you're just
I mean, it took
putting
us a long time creatively to get there. Evan and I had like a very harrowing first like 4 years of our shared career, and then I think we had like a pretty solid moment of like, all right, we just have to like this and not please other people. So
Yeah, well, that's very interesting. I want to talk about so many things. I will just throw out there for folks that this project started as a solo project for Evan. Ben joined pretty soon after, I imagine. I don't have all, I wasn't there, but it sounds like it was pretty soon. So yeah, there was already success for the project as you had to figure out how you work together as a team. So that only makes sense. But you knew each other longer, and that's where I'm really trying to go with this. Y'all have known each other since like grade school? How far back do you go?
Preschool.
Preschool?
4 years old.
Oh my God. I feel special because I have a friend I've known since I was 6. You've got me beat by 2 whole years. Were your parents friends? What happened? Did you meet on the playground?
We'll shout out Park West Elementary or Park West Preschool. We both happened to go to the same. It was just by coincidence. Evan had like a really big bro as a young lad. I don't know. It was kind of like, I value our proximity to one another because like we didn't go to the same schools always, but we kind of had the same origin point. And then like throughout grade school, middle school, high school, like we were always like, we'd be at like some similar parties together, we'd be doing some stuff together, but we were like, had separate lives like we didn't. And so it was awesome to then be able to like have the added benefit of like, once we started making music, it was like, oh, we know like all the same people and we can like share different perspectives of the same stories that we heard or whatever. It's pretty cool.
We went
Yeah.
to summer camp together, so we kind of had this like, not the same school, but the same summer camp for most of, so it was like, we kind of see each other and then not.
You were close enough that you could handle being in a creative project together, but not so close that you could handle being in a creative project together.
We went from, I feel like we went from like, oh, nice to see you, da 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 da, to like, full on,
every day for.
Get out of my face! I need to have a meditation before I go on stage with you. This is too much. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Ben, what do you remember about Evan as a kid before you joined forces?
I mean, just like, I think he's a very handsome guy now, but I also that as a young lad, he was like a really cute, he like just had this like big crazy hair and was like a very smiley, like very positive fella. And it's a shame he turned out to be such a heartless bastard.
It's puberty will do that to you,
Yeah.
At age and
middle school ruins a lot of lives.
It's hard to like know if my memories of young you are like real memories or just as a result of like seeing pictures and then like like I feel like I remember seeing you in like a soccer jersey, but then I also feel like every young picture of us is like a soccer jersey.
Yeah, it's hard to
I don't remember, like I obviously don't remember anything about preschool except once in preschool I kissed 2 girls at once. That was pretty exciting.
Whoa, okay, Casanova.
Tempting, exploratory young people shit. Please delete this from the...
Yeah, right? Just kidding, that never happened.
I'm out of here.
Well, I was going to ask Evan the same question. What do you remember about Ben from the grade school days? But sounds like, he just shared a lot of really great info about himself.
Just always macking on the ladies from the age of 4. It was like, damn, bro. Just getting after it.
I was this guy.
No, Ben was always like the friendliest dude at like, because we wouldn't see each other, for months, and then he'd just pop up at like a random party. And him and this other buddy of ours, Micah Ross, they were always like the 2 friendly faces that would just kind of like appear at like 2 a.m. at, some grimy party on the north side of Chicago. And then, we'd go our separate ways, and then I'd see him 3 months later in some other, grimy house party.
I love that. Honestly, I'm not shocked to hear these descriptions from either of you. Both of you are saying that like you both represented this really warm, welcoming, friendly presence to each other in these grimy party environments, perhaps. That's like actually a really nice way to describe what you do musically, maybe, because I don't know
That's a really nice image. I like that.
I just keep thinking, and I don't mean it to be cloying in any way, but it's just like there is so much, almost like a radiant foundation of joy in a lot of your music, and it just seems to me that could only be because there's something behind that, and clearly it's your bright and sunny dispositions.
I feel like we're incapable of making like dark sounding, like intense music, but.
We are. And we were literally just talking about this.
Really?
Sharing ideas with Ben. It's just like cannot even like write in a minor key. I wish we like. I think sometimes if we're like a little self-conscious of like we don't want to be too sugary or too fine line. So we're working on it. Hopefully we'll have a dark album coming your way soon.
I mean, listen, I would hate to know what would have to happen in your lives for that dark album to exist, unless it's literally just hanging out in techno clubs in New York for, as long as you can stand it. Just how they say it's really a good practice when you're feeling down to like make yourself smile and stand in a power pose. Just growl. Just pretend to growl for an hour and see what
power pose. I like it. Yeah, I think I don't know that we, it would totally be false to think that we have like a thesis about the project, but I think like we both really, there is a lot of like very serious electronic music that is like dark and intense, and I think that we both are drawn to stuff that's more like curious and fun and like maybe some of the darker stuff too, but like music that has like a sense of humor and like is curious in some way, and I think that's sort of like the target that we aim for most of the music.
Yeah, I totally appreciate that. And I think also it's funny to me when people take particularly dance music excruciatingly seriously, because it is like by default the silliest genre. Like it's really just a bunch of like quirky noises. I mean, obviously it can be so much more. You can have vocals. You have lots of vocals and things like that. And like there is a message, and it is inherently political and all of those things that are true. But like when you take it too seriously, that feels like a trap to me. So it's.
We have a moment in our show now with like this big horn build. Ben built this like edit of a song, and like during the build, it's just like these horns that go on for like 8 bars too long, and there's like air horn sound effects, and it's just hilarious when you show it. It's just like, okay, this is the dumbest possible thing you can do to this song. Let's.
That's amazing.
That was a creative decision.
Take us. I love that. I mean, I don't know. I'm a big fan of like Mr. Wazo. You can see my flat Eric in the back, and so like I personally love when artists do something that is just like there to maybe put the audience in a weird place for just a moment and then bring them back. You know, keep people on their toes is what I'm always saying.
I think that's the important shit about making a song. It's like you want, or a live set or anything. It's like you want at least a moment where somebody's like, what was that or whatever. Like that song, I already had like a bunch of like, I had like penny whistles in it and all of these like weird noises, and it was like, you know, it's kind of this like groovy house thing, and it has this like little tiny build, and for the live show it's like this build needs to be like 10 times longer, and it needs like people. I think people like it a lot.
I need to experience this now. I hope that I don't know if you have any other future shows planned, but I definitely hope that continues as part of your set. I would like to experience that. As a South Floridian, anytime anyone goes, bah, 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 I get really excited, so.
Air horns are here to stay, I think.
I like that we're talking about strange, experimental, surreal music, because I also read in an old interview that Ben, you, previous to joining Gilligan Moss, worked at a startup run by Dan Deacon, who is certainly a gentleman who does weird shit. What were you doing for Dan Deacon?
Man, that's I can't believe. Well, I guess I told somebody that.
Sorry to put you out there.
No, it's funny. I wanted to work in music, and I couldn't really like, you know, there's a lot of cronyism, and like unless you have like 38 internships and whatever, it's like hard to kind of break in. And like, this was my first opportunity. Like he and a couple buddies started a tech company that was like, it was basically like the wristbands at like at games and concerts where like they light up and stuff, but it was with phones. There was like an app, and like you'd point your phone at, you know, whatever, and it would be like red, 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 yellow, red, red. It's like, you know, kind of like a light show thing.
I see.
And then like, I feel like on paper it sounds like it could have been like a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory type, like crazy Dan Deacon's involved, like fun, weird technology, but it just ended up being like a pretty like whack tech company job. And like the shows I ended up going to were like a Mary Kay conference and like Herbalife and like mega churches really fucked with this stuff. And I was like,
of course they did.
Yeah, that was a weird job that and Dan wasn't like very present. He
was just getting his money
he just
from the
plays
mega churches.
kind of like, yeah, he had a little bit of like absent father syndrome. So anytime I'd see him out at the bars in Baltimore and stuff, he'd be like, "Oh, and I'm like, dude, I don't care. Like, it's fine that you don't want to go to the office job about the light thing. Like, it's fine."
Dan Deacon didn't show up in a suit.
His little wizard hat.
That's
Very
amazing.
nice.
Honestly, good for him for diversifying his revenue streams, you know? That's what Wu-Tang Financial suggests of all of us.
That's what we simply must do, diversify our bonds.
If Gilligan Moss was going to start a shitty tech startup, what would it be?
This is a question for Evan.
What would it be? Well, we had one with Elderbrook. It was the idea of one, collapsible keyboard stands that could fold down into your carry-on.
That's very smart. Nothing shitty about that at all.
There's, they're clunky, they're heavy, they're a pain in the ass. So, not a tech startup, but
sounds like you're solving a problem that people actually know they need. I dated a guy in tech once, and he said, my job is to tell people that I have the solution for a problem they didn't even know they had. But you're actually solving a problem people would like solved in their lives. You're not even...
The amount of times that we've had to like rent keyboard stands or like buy them from a Guitar Center and then return them like 58 days later, like we didn't like the stand.
I feel like they have Guitar Center is like a tickler file on us. We probably returned like $20,000 worth of merchandise over the years. Just buy it for tour, do the tour, return it.
Shout out to Guitar Center, that great company.
Yo, shout out. Do you have any other hacks for touring musicians who are trying to be bold on a budget besides just renting from Guitar Center and returning? I'm curious now.
I don't know that I've never actually done it, but somebody told me that putting socks and underwear on your rider is like a really good hack. I feel like that's like kind of smart.
The rider is a big one because they'll go buy. I feel like they could end up spending like a meaningful percentage of what you're already making for the show fee on like whatever you put on there. So I feel like we've been too modest on should ask for more. We usually ask for like hummus and
a single bottle of kombucha. This guy on this tour came up to us and was like, I am so sorry, they did not have ginger kombucha, is that okay? And I was like, dog, like I like walk, like anything is fine, like I
you're like, I'm sorry I'm even asking, I just really
I feel guilty for that. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Timothy Chan wants to know, will you ever release the Gilligan Moss tour set in the future? I imagine they mean a recording of the tour, or did you record any of the shows that you recently performed?
It would have been smart of us to do that, for sure. However, we haven't. And that's because you gotta come see it in real life,
That's very fair. That's very fair. Although I'm very teased now knowing there's a bunch of air horns and a really elongated build. And I would like to hear some of these meditations. I'm really intrigued. Maybe one day there will be a Gilligan Moss meditation album just for funsies.
Hey, set us up.
I want a meditation clinic. I want to run like a space.
Yeah, are you now legitimately quite into meditation? Were you always, like, it started as a joke and now, okay. This is how it happens. Next thing you know.
Can I lie and just go fully down the rabbit hole or no?
You're halfway there. You're wearing a Dead & Co t-shirt.
I feel like this is the type of thing that you like talk about like twice in interviews and then suddenly like we become the meditation guys and it's like, yo, sidebar, have you seen... There's like a whole genre of like meditation DJs that are like so crunched out and like play like it's called like Healing House. There are a couple like really big Instagram accounts. I feel no hold this other like.
This is how it starts.
I don't know. This guy is like so famous. I can't remember his name, but it's like, and he it's separate with me, but it's like staring into the sun. Like I can't look away. Like he dresses in like all white, and it's like this is Healing House. Like. The resonant frequency of like the kick drum is aligning the chakras of your heart and like the waves are like, and so many people seem to fuck with it and it's like, I don't know.
You're looking at it cynically, but
I can put Ben on blast, but he has dabbled. There's a folder on our Dropbox for his. He's got.
Yo, relax. What is the side project though?
Yoga music forever. And he's got this ego. This might be the world debut. DJ Downward Dog, I think is what it's called.
Honestly, yeah. Great name.
And
great name.
Yeah, there's probably a dozen songs in the can over there.
I'll have to get DJ Downward Dog on an episode of Cat Calls coming up. We gotta investigate.
I kind of would. I think it could be fire to have like a crunched out split personality disorder where like Because my hypothesis is that you can make money doing that.
Oh,
I don't know.
for sure. I mean, you'd think that's part of the idea, right? Like, it's never actually about altruism at the end of the day.
It's not about healing and relaxation. It's about money.
It's about posting content and getting paid, getting kombucha sponsorships.
The guy that put up like 100,000 songs on Spotify and made like $10 million.
I just read about that. Well, I read a headline.
Genius. Like, I don't think he should be like, because Spotify does that. Like,
Right.
they made their own streaming farms and have like totally cannibalized ambient music, and like
That's true.
they're
They're
It's
just
like
mad he beat them at their
player
own game.
game.
Yeah. It's only legal when they do it. It's not legal when an actual musician does it, makes any money off of their platform.
I don't know his name, but
shout out to that guy.
Mugshot. I feel like he got like arrested. Which is wild.
Yes, he did. And you know what? Whatever. Fuck it. We'll go back to pirating. It's fine. Okay, as silly as it is, but not far away to imagine that you might incorporate more meditation into your music, that brings me to this thing I want to talk to you about, because you've kind of always had a vision in mind of incorporating many different styles of music into what you do as Gilligan Moss, and that's been kind of the goal for a long time for you. And I think on Speaking Across Time, you absolutely nail it. You do have so many different genres and inspirations becoming cohesive I mean, it's very easy to point out that country music is something that you don't often, not unprecedented, but not something you often hear in an album. But I would just love to hear from you all about what that journey's been about. Why is that important to you? And what felt unique about the experience of making this album? Do you feel like you kind of cracked a code of some kind as artists, as people working together? What can you share with me about what went into this album and its myriad of influences?
Evan, have we cracked any code of anything ever? I feel like we've never cracked any code.
Cracked. But I do honestly, like, starting with the first album, it felt like we, like, and maybe this is just like, maybe all artists are like this, but like, we've always been jealous of, it feels like there's certain artists who kind of come out of the gate as like a fully formed human, and it's like, they know who they are, they know what they're doing. And for us, it took years of pain to kind of like, in constant, like, who are we? What are we doing? What's the whatever? And then it just kind of has been this like natural progression, starting with the first album and then with this album kind of furthering that, of just sort of like getting more comfortable in our own skin and kind of like finding whatever that sound is and whatever that thing that just feels like us is.
I think some of the stuff about it too is like the through lines are like texture and timbre, like trying to like make sure that every song has sort of like disparate elements that are like working together that are like kind of unexpected. And like I think also like we're also very interested in sampling and listen very widely to a lot of music, so I think like that coupled with our, like what we were talking about earlier, like desire to like make any song feel a little bit surprising and interesting, is I think like by virtue of those things kind of like coming together, that sort of is like the through line for us.
Yeah, no, but, and I just want to clarify, when you said, is there a way that you maybe use similar instruments or sounds in those songs that kind of have different flavors to make them feel like they fit together more? Is that what you were saying? Or am I just saying that?
No,
I feel like you did.
No, some of it is like, you almost don't want to be, like if you're making electronic music, because like if you're a band, you've got generally like a guitar, you got like the same 4 instruments that you're using in every song.
True.
Like with electronic music, like you have like all these different options, but if you are not that good of a producer, which like I think proudly neither of us are like these whizzes that can like, I want this song, cool, let me go do this song for you. That helps make everything kind of sound similar because we're just not able to. We're not good enough producers to just like, all right, country tune, boom, there it is. This tune, nailed it. You know, it's all kind of like whatever, like kind of C+ versions of different things, and then it just ends up.
We're just getting like more and more bad producers.
Yeah, I feel like you're being very hard on yourself right now.
Okay, not C+, but I proudly being like only having a limited kind of like palette and method of doing things and sticking to those.
Yeah.
Stuff that sounds kind of coherent.
Yeah. Well, I think that like, okay, I get what you're saying. You're not the sound design wizard. You're not like Sophie or Skrillex who's just gonna create this like insane organic noise out of thin fucking air on your computer.
I feel like Skrillex, like his shit sounds similar because he probably does largely the same thing on every song. So like if he was doing production work for another artist, it's still gonna kind of sound like Skrillex.
You're right. Mm-hmm.
Me, like an amazing producer, like producer.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like enhance whatever artist they're working with.
Yes.
I don't know if that's really totally our bag because it's kind of like things our way, and it's.
Well, you've spent all this time banging your heads against the wall to find exactly who you are, so why would you run away from that now?
Yeah, it's kind of. I do feel. I met up with an artist today called Werner Case, and he he's finishing a record, and he's another electronic guy, and he was talking about putting together his like first album, and I was kind of like listening to him talk, and I was just internally, I was like, man, like I actually feel pretty comfortable with like, and he was having the hallmarks of like, this needs to say something, and I need to figure out what it means, and like what the sound of my thing is, and I do think that's like a fun, exciting journey, but it also feels like nobody wants to be back in middle school again, and I feel like we, through whatever method we got there, like I feel very comfortable with like the music that we can make. That it feels very, it's fun. It's like I feel like I know kind of what our bag is.
Yeah, totally. I was just talking to a friend of mine who produces and DJs in Miami, and he was having kind of that same conversation with me. He was like, I feel like maybe I've been trying too many different things, and I need to like hone in on a thing, but I don't know what the thing is I want to hone in on. And I was like, hey, I think honestly, like when the right thing feels right, you're gonna know it. Like I wouldn't beat yourself up about like, why don't I know what my thing is? Like that seems slightly counterproductive, but of course it's easier to tell someone that than it is to be the person who's like, why don't I know my thing?
Well, and the true mind fuck of it is it's like, it's kind of similar to like fashion or like even like social like anxiety, where it's like no one's really even like, this is all like navel gazing internal like stuff. It's like I want I want my shit to sound the same. Most people, everyone else doesn't care. It's like no one's like studying.
Yeah, and everybody else already thinks your stuff sounds this. They're like, oh yeah, I know what your sound is, and that's like, okay.
Yeah, and it doesn't even matter. It's like, if the song good, cool, I like it. And especially in like Spotify era, it's like whatever. Like I like the song, I don't like that song. No one's like connecting the dots and being like. That was another thing we kind of learned a while ago. Is like not to be too precious about like, oh, we shouldn't do that remix or we shouldn't do this because it's this mysterious person out there is like, you know, has the tickler file on us. And
it's Guitar Center. Guitar Center's gonna come down on us. Hey guys, this is weird for your canon. Yeah, that's all really thoughtful. I love to get that insight, but I do feel like this album, it has such a beautiful cohesion to it, and I love the title, Speaking Across Time, and I love the title track, which is itself just this like interstitial situation. I think it's like 50 seconds long, but it just really provides this beautiful like philosophical backbone to the whole thing, whether or not that was in your mind when you were putting it together. But like, I think it's the poet David Mason, right? Talking and saying when he writes, he's writing to speak to people across time, to relate the feeling of being alive in this moment to someone in another moment to come, or and I thought that was really brilliant in itself. And of course music is that. I'm always fascinated too with, you know, artists who put so much emotion in themselves into their music, and how wild is it to then perform those deeply personal songs years later and be like, well, gotta relive that experience again.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear from you about why Speaking Across Time is the title, why that snippet from David Mason, and your thoughts on all of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like some of it is like you know, accidental after the fact, and some of it is like intentional. I think like the David was my I studied poetry in college, and he was like my poetry advisor, and was just like a very extremely great poet and great teacher and great mentor. And he'd sent me this like really long and actually like very good. He moved to Australia a few years ago and did this like really long format. He's kind of like doing some recitations and talking about like being in Australia and like reckoning with like, he has a whole thing about like, I think it's called like hemispheres, and he's talking about how like really radical it is to like imagine life in a different hemisphere, and like but I was listening to it and I was just struck. I mean, obviously because I have such a personal connection with him, but like it just really felt true to like what we are trying to do with like sample-based music and electronic music, and like I think a lot of the creative process and the stuff that I find interesting and Evan finds interesting is like finding ways to pull like you know, like old ideas into something, and like that country song, for instance. It's like, you know, we had never heard of that, and then it was like it just creatively very interesting to kind of like repurpose it and be like, hey, you know, hey, this is like something that exists that's really interesting, and here's like kind of a new window dressing for it. And I think that, yeah, it was also serving as like a good reminder of some of the stuff Evan was talking about, of like not being overly precious about stuff, but also remembering that like, you know, music, you know, not in like a we're super important kind of way, but like you know, it does hopefully outlast you, and it's like the thing that you know, hopefully you can like communicate something that somebody else down the line in 5, 10, 50 years can like think about in some way. So
100%. I think that we as creatives in general, anyone out there who's alive and is creative, like get so caught up in the idea, especially in today's day and age with the internet and instant gratification, and like you said, the Spotify era and social media and all these things, and you get this idea that like things exist, and in the moment that you release them, that's like where they're really potent, and you know, you think that reaction, that initial reaction is this statement on how your art impacted people, but the reality is that once you make something and you put it out there, oh my God, it's so long, and you never know who's going to find it when, and who's going to be in what state of mind when they find it, and how it's going to speak to them. Like, it's incredible, and that's where, I don't know, I get all warm and fuzzy, like, oh my God, like, the connection is there, it's happening, it's landing.
And it happens in real time for every listener whenever they listen to it. It's not like, you know, because they weren't there for the moment of release or inception or whatever. It's like the real art and conversation happens like the second they put in the headphones, whether it's, you know, a week from now or whenever. It's like, it's very cool. I don't know.
That's part of the fun of like why we're so pumped that we've had vinyl and like physical stuff too, is it's just like, you know, I have this like loose daydream of like, you know, someone in 70 years coming across a random ass record of ours and, you know, putting it on the turntable. It's just cool to like think about that.
It is cool. I know that's the digital media, or excuse me, physical media that you can just get your
That's
hands
really
on, like
weird,
an
yeah.
old book or anything like that. When you are working with samples, do you go to vinyl records and things like that? How do you find the things that you want to work with as samples?
Oh, we're much too lazy to go.
The artist tells you that they're sampling off vinyl, they're liars. There's just no fucking way. It's like
DJ Shadow and no one else.
The
Yeah.
quality of the sample is so much better.
no fucking chance. It's so much more work compared to just like, let me just plop it in off of YouTube.
That makes sense.
I don't know. Sometimes it is like, for a while, I'm definitely out of the practice now since we were prepping for live tour and stuff. But like, a lot of my creative practice and Evan's also is like, for, you know, it's like listening to records sort of in like a, you know, for the first like hour or two of the morning, like drink a coffee, listen to a bunch of weird, interesting shit, and like, you know, you hear it, your ear picks up for a little part, and you're like, I'm just gonna record this little bit, or like, you know, catalog this song in some way that I can like come back to it and whatever, and like, you know, sometimes something will just like totally arrest you and be like, I need to make something, you know, like The Destroyer, for instance. Like I heard that song
Love
and like
that
I
one, yeah.
instantly heard the sample chop. I was like, I want to make this sample chop, and I just went, and it took like, you know, 20 minutes, and I wish everything was always that easy, but no, it's cool. It's like obviously like Fortet is like a huge influence on, maybe not obviously in our music, but he's just like the greatest dude out, and you know, he definitely has inspired us to like listen very widely and keep like a good strong catalog of stuff that you find interesting, and kind of keep that going for forever, because it makes you a better musician by listening, and you get a lot of stuff to work with. It's not just like a splice sample pack or like, you know, something.
There's this interview that we watched years ago, like when first starting out, that he keeps this audio diary, which is just a folder, and I think he catalogs it by year. So it's like this kind of diary of his life of just sampling everything from like little DVD intro sounds to like a bell to songs, whatever it might be. And now he's got this like giant diary of sound, this folder, and that's when he's writing, can pull stuff in. So that was like from the beginning, we were like, okay, we need that. So like I have this thing on my computer called the Sound Vault. Ben has his own Sound Vault. And it's just this folder that I just set up a new computer. It's like over 100 gigs of just like random ass shit that, you know, cataloged in my own way. So it's like my own little splice that no one else, you know, has. So it's kind of it's a cool way to have like personality in a world of sampling where you kind of
That's really cool. I like only mess around with music in the most hobbyist of hobby ways, and I'm now like, should I be randomly recording things?
Yeah.
That sounds
Cool.
fun.
I think you should. I think like that. Yeah, that practice is like a really cool, interesting thing to do in and of itself. Even if you're not like making, if you don't have an end product in mind. I think it's like, you know, it's like sketching or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting how like when you change your perspective on the world because you're playing with something new, all of a sudden you just see things differently. Like, you know, when I first started getting into video editing, I just like watch videos differently, and now I'm thinking about those things. And so I can imagine when you're looking at the world as a constant source of inspiration, it must just be like a kid in a candy shop sometimes.
Yeah, it's like you have the entire history of recorded music, and then you have your entire life to work through. It's
Everything's
so cool.
content. No, I'm just kidding.
now there's all these new tools which like weren't around for the majority when we were starting, where you can start the AI tools where you can split out stems. So that is just like now truly anything you're listening to, you're like, ooh, I really like the guitar in this. That's where before it's like, okay, but there's a million other things in the track. I'm just gonna rule this out as even potential material. Now, like truly all recorded sound.
I was watching an interview with Porter Robinson today or yesterday, and he was like, he had such a good description of it. It's like a song used to be like a cake that you could like eat a slice of, and like if you wanted to like, you could like take some of the frosting off or whatever, and like all these AI tools, you're like, I can pull the eggs out of that cake.
Yeah.
It's like it's a crazy, kind of frightening.
Wow. But at the same time, I mean, yeah, well, the duality of, is it scary? Is it helpful? Like, both.
Sure.
That's life.
Yeah.
You can't have one without the other.
Tools like that are like super cool and creative. And then there's like, Ben and I were messing with on tour this Suno. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Chat GPT for music, where you can be like, I want a song with these lyrics, this mood.
Wow.
It's out like the absolute worst sounding music you could
I
ever.
came down the Airbnb and Evan's just like laying on the couch with his phone on his chest, and he's like, be quiet, I'm composing a masterpiece. This awful sounding AI music that was just so funny.
That's
I
awesome.
with like had his headphones on, I'm sure they were like turned up to like 15.
I'll have to play around with that. That's pretty funny. I mean, eventually I'm sure it'll catch up to everybody, but...
It is cool. We won't get into the problems of
Yeah.
it because there are many.
Yeah.
So.
It's sort of like a hot button issue that I don't think we fully realized. We did some AI, like we had doing single art is kind of a weird thing because like you have a bunch of singles. It's the art for the single is just going to get swallowed up in Spotify once you release the actual album. So for some of the single arts, we're scrambling to figure stuff out. And it was for only one, we used AI to create this kind of cool thing that we couldn't have otherwise done. And there were some people that after we released that were just like flaming us.
This guy was like in the DMs that was just like, I can't believe you sold out and da 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 da, and I was just like, bro, relax, man. Like it's not that serious, and like, yes, it is problematic. We would hope to never do it in a way that was like compromising a real artist's work. Our goal is to work with for this album we worked with a very real artist and made very physical, the opposite of AI, like
Exactly.
very, very physical art.
That was my next question, so I'd love for you to expound on that. You literally made costumes for this album, didn't you? Or
Yeah,
this
we made costumes and paper mache masks and giant wood masks. Like so I can't remember really how I found this person, but her name is Orly Anon, and she just makes I think what I was drawn to in her art was we both sort of we're huge DJ Cozy fans, and he really traffics in magical realism and surrealism and stuff, and so that always captures my attention. And Orly makes these really cool, interesting, strange costumes that have these bold colors and weird shit going on. And so I reached out, and my favorite part of this whole thing, just as a set and setting thing, I find there's so many relationships in the music industry that are insufferable and transactional and very reduce your art to a product or whatever. And so I don't know, I FaceTimed with Orly. I kind of had some ideas for what would be a cool thing, she was smoking a spliff. She was kind of, we were talking for a while on Zoom, and then at some point she was like, yeah, I don't really know what you're saying. I don't feel like you're that in touch with your art and your music, really, to be honest. And that's fine. You're a white dude. White dudes have a hard time with that. But I think you should do a little therapy, maybe eat some mushrooms.
Incredible.
You're not even paying me a lot of money. So if we're gonna make art, let's make real art, and let's talk about real shit. And I was totally set alight by that, because I was I so crave a real artistic connection with somebody when I'm working, and so I was hell yeah, and I went.
You're read me to filth, bitch. Let's
yeah, I was
go.
hell yeah, humiliate me, let's go. And no, it's tight. Like it's like we talked about a lot of like, for me, I'm a twin, and I like it in both the literal twin partnership that I have and in like creative partnerships with Evan and with like any person. Like a really hard time figuring out like distance and separation and individuality and closeness, and like so that was sort of the goal with like the cover of the record is like you have these two heads with something coming out of the middle of it, and it's like really physically exploring like the space in between two figures, and like and the whole process was dope. Like she sent over this little like mood board, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And I flew down to Mexico City to work on it with her, and I didn't realize it was going to be like huge, real.
Wow.
I thought it would be like this big, or like she was like, oh, I can make a little paper mache this or that, and I like showed up, and there were like 11 or 12 people working on the set, and like all of these costumes, and like it was a really kind of serious feeling, very cool. Like I don't know, I far and away like the best artistic exchange I've had with anybody, and yeah, I think it turned out amazing. It's
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's so she's really amazing, and I feel like it was just like a really good reminder in like purity of creation, and like there are a lot of things you can compromise on and have to compromise on in the music biz, and her just being like, you can't compromise on like, I want this art to represent a real thing inside of you that you look back on in like 5 years and you're like, that's what I was going through or whatever. So very happy and proud of how it turned out.
You should be. And I love how it does reflect to me too, even just like what we were talking about this speaking across time, like that also is just showing this connection between the minds, your minds making it, the minds of the people who are going to hear it and stumble across it at any point. And it bridges that divide, no matter how far they are physically, temporally, whatever. Like, it's very cool.
Thank you. Thank you. I have it on my in my bookcase here. It's cool to, it's dope. I'm very, it's also, I feel like something I can brag about, 'cause like when you brag about your music, it's like not that cool, but I'm like, oh, I'm like really proud. Like I didn't actually like do any of the art, I just like kind of shared ideas with somebody, and they
right, it's easier.
Really fantastic.
It doesn't feel egotistical. You're like, yeah, I helped.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I was gonna say, it's so cool when you make something that's physical as well, because like it still lives somewhere. Does she have all of those pieces in her studio? That makes sense. They're so large.
Extremely meticulous about like cataloging all of the
so
stuff
cool.
that she's on. Like
there was a fleeting thought of, could we bring it out on tour? And then we realized we're can't make any money.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's like a deficit of the art direction, but like it is very static. So it's like I have a desire to be able to like interact with it or like do stuff with it, but it's like even like filming video content with it, which is something we're kind of talking about, but it's like really expensive, and like the costumes are not very like they're fragile, and you can't really like move a lot in them, so it's kind of hard, but I would love to figure out a way to like do something more with it.
Yeah, well, and also it just kind of opens up maybe ideas for future things. Like maybe now that you've got this idea in your head, maybe it's like, oh, maybe there's a way for us to explore this in a way that is less fragile, or like, oh, how can we take what that idea was but create a version of it that we could beat up on tour or something, without absolutely destroying it. Like,
Evan, I would pay so much money to see you in that costume.
Vibe.
It'd be cool.
That would be very cool. Well, we are coming close to the end of our hour, which is sad because I feel like this is going very well, and it's great to have both of you just bouncing ideas off of each other. Do you feel like working together, do you create at least a bit of safeness from all of those outside influences that would say like, hey, like productize your art, like, hey, like we're having shallow conversations on the outside, but maybe even thankfully because you've known each other for so long, like is the inside of Gilligan Moss a place where you can keep some things sacred?
Totally. We had some rough. We signed with a major label right when we started, and not to put them too on blast, but we had some rough early years and experiences with kind of those outside voices of like, you got to be this, you got to be that, you're not this, you're not that, and I think it's the kind of thing that would, if it was only one of us, would probably have knocked us out of the music game. But having this be a duo where we can like kind of figure shit out together and bounce little ideas off of each other. Yeah, it is. That's a nice way that you put it. Like it is kind of like a little cocoon with, you know, as you kind of navigate the.
Yeah. And I hope that you feel more at ease and in the right place with the foreign family vibe. I love all the music that comes out of that corner of the universe, and I hope that it's as warm as it seems from the outside.
Like I can say like very unambiguously that like basically like everybody that works in and around Foreign Family and with Odessa and like all those people are like the kindest, warmest people on the planet. They are all like very hardworking, very creative, really very, very deeply good people.
I love
all like multi-talented too. Like they all like they do their own merch. They do you know, great with sound, great with visuals. It's just an awesome crew.
That's so cool. Well, thank you so much for taking this time out of your days to speak with me. I'm so thankful. This has been a really fun, enlightening, silly conversation for me. I hope that it's been fun for the two of you as well. I absolutely hope I get to run into you on the road. Do you do many shows in New York? Do you have anything on the horizon that we can look forward to that we should have our eyes peeled for?
I think hopefully soon. We just finished this first little run, and I think it really kind of filled this up with, it was our first time headlining, which was just an awesome, kind of really like, just, I don't want to use the word like watershed moment, but for us it was like this big kind of like, wow, this is like, we've been working to kind of get to that point for a long time.
Yeah, you should feel good about that. That is a big moment.
It was super cool to have rooms filled with people who are fans of the music. So we're definitely gonna line up some more stuff.
There are definitely some cities we missed, and I think we, you know, some cities that were also amazing that would be like, it'd be awesome to just rip it back in there in another couple months.
Well, I will keep my eyes peeled. I'm gonna come find you. I wanna experience the live meditation and the air horns for myself. And maybe
air horn.
Maybe you can record one in the future as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having us. It's been very great to talk to a very real person.
Thank you. You're welcome back anytime. I feel like it would be so easy to just do this again anytime. So when you're ready to chat some more, you just call me up. And maybe I'll see you in New York sometime.
Sure.
See ya. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
That was fun. We did it. There was a lot going on in the chat that I was just like trying to stay tuned to things that seemed mostly relevant. But thank you so much, Raul, for subscribing. I see you. I wanted to shout your name out. I gotta find a better way to work those sort of shout outs in during the conversations. Joey Headset, as always, Turn and Strike, so good to see you. Thank you for joining. Necro Vomit, what an incredible name. And Timothy Chan, thank you for the great question. Did you see Gilligan Gilligan. I'm saying that right. All of a sudden it sounds like I'm talking about Gilligan's Island because my brain is fried because it is 8:16 p.m. here in South Florida where I live. Thank you. Okay, Timothy, you're still there. Did you see them on tour? I would love to know what show you went to. I really do hope that they announce some more tour dates to come because I would really like to go experience that live. And if you haven't yet listened to Speaking Across Time, please listen to it. Any time is good. Now is great. Tomorrow is great. 50 years from now is also good. On the way out, they were awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Oh, so cool. I'm definitely going to catch them sometime. I hope everyone in the chat catches Gilligan Moss on tour. On the way out, we're going to listen to their track, Upstate Miracle. That is the one that features country music. I meant to ask them. It sounds like that was a sample, and I would love to hear more about that story. We're just going to have them on the program one more time. It was so great having two people on the show as well, two lifelong friends that could just chat back and forth. Thank you so much for joining me. I can't tell you when the next Cat Calls will be because I will be going to San Francisco for Portola Festival at the end of the month. And then when I come back from that, it will be October and we will have some more conversations on the calendar. However, if you would like to stay in touch, you can find me on social media at Cat Says Kill or at Super Cat World, everywhere that social media happens. And you can subscribe to this YouTube channel right here and check out old episodes and follow me on my newsletter, Cat Scrawls, which a new one just went out featuring a Gilligan Moss song, actually. And just past Justin J. What? That sounds sick, Torton Strike. Justin J has an album coming out tomorrow, by the way. I don't know if that's a secret, but it's happening. Love Justin J. Shout out him. Classic Cat Calls guest. Holy shit, Justin was like the third Cat Calls guest I ever had, or the fourth or the fifth or something like that. That episode's here on YouTube. Before I had all of this cute shit, I didn't know what I was doing. It was the middle of COVID. It was crazy. I still don't know what I'm doing really, but we're doing it. We're going to listen to Upstate Miracle on the way out, and this is the country music inflected one, and I hope that you enjoy it. And I will share in the chats links to the Discord, links to my newsletter, and other things, yeah, in the chat. And yeah, I'd love to get Justin back on the show. Like I said, he's already been on the show. But I'd love to get him back. It's been long enough. Get that motherfucker on the show. All right, Upstate Miracle. I love you all. Thank you so much. See you on the internet.
You took a chance on him. He broke your heart and left you crying. You lost your will to love again. You ain't even trying. All you need is someone who will love you tenderly. Well, here I am, so take my hand and bet your heart on me.
comedy show and not a comedian.